Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Read Your Genes podcast, Genetics for Everyone. We have a number of questions that were submitted, so let's just jump right into this and see what we got. Okay, the first question, why would you tell me to limit gluten if I don't notice any issues? So I think the person is asking, I don't notice any issues when I eat gluten. Why would you tell me off the genetic review to limit gluten? Okay, good question. So understand there's a difference between a gluten sensitivity and a genetic predisposition to a gluten sensitivity and or a full gluten celiac disease, autoimmune issue with gluten. So with the HLA genes and the KIAA genes, if you have defects in that, meaning more than just a single allele defect, especially if you have double allele defects in that, I may say it'd be better for you to be on a gluten-free diet. Now understand, you could have no defects in your HLA genes or your KIAA genes, and you still have a gluten sensitivity because of issues with your gut, damaged gut, causing your body to make antibodies to gliadin or the gliadin peptides. And now you have antibodies created in gliadin peptides, and every time you eat gluten, you're causing an inflammation. And you still could have no obvious symptoms like I don't have a gut pain when I eat gluten, so I must be okay. But it could be causing inflammation in the rest of your body. It could be causing inflammation to your thyroid. It could be causing inflammation to your brain. So I'm only, when you were looking at your genetics, I'm only looking at your genetics for gluten. If you really want to do a full food sensitivity panel, you have to do a Cyrex array 2, array 3, array 4, and array 10 to really get a full picture of your antibody production due to epigenomic factors, meaning lifestyle factors. Now, the HLA genes and the KIAA genes just tell you that you have a predisposition to gluten issues. It doesn't mean you do. So the reason why I tell you on a genetic review to stay off of gluten is because of defects in those genes. Now, understand, it doesn't mean you have gluten issues. It means you have a predisposition to it. The only way to know if you have is to do a Cyrex food panel. Hopefully that explains it. If you don't understand about autoimmune issues, antibody issues, really you should join our autoimmune or chronic health and autoimmune course. That is my latest course, and it's really, really good. And it will really explain to you about antibodies and autoimmune issues and what you need to do about that to get a handle on it. Next question, can you explain the BCMO genes? So the BCMO1 gene is what we look at on your genetic pathway, and that really ties to vitamin A, conversion of beta carotene to vitamin A that's usable in your body. So how you use vitamin A. If you have defects on this family of genes, you gotta consider adding, a supplemental vitamin A to your protocol. So, and I always recommend, not always, but I usually recommend that you take all your fat soluble vitamins together, your A, your E, your D, your K, all together, so that it's just a better synergistic atmosphere for your body to absorb these, to utilize them. They work together synergistically. And often we see, it's not always, but often we see people with BCMO defects also have defects on their VDR, their vitamin D receptor genes. So that's not uncommon to go together. So it's really utilization, BCMO genes, utilization of vitamin A, how your body can break it down and utilize it in your body. If you have defects on it, you should consider supplementing with vitamin A. I have fatigue issues. Is this genetic? Well, it can be. There can be genetic pieces to it. But usually when you look at, if somebody comes to me and they have major fatigue issues, we want to find out why. Is genetic, is genetic, the genetic piece the reason why a person has fatigue? Usually not. It can be connected. So if you have defects in your detoxification pathways, you are going to be a sluggish detoxer. So that could lead to fatigue. If you have defects in your histamine pathways, you're going to produce a lot more histamine. That's a lot more inflammation. You're going to have more systemic inflammation. That could lead to fatigue. But there isn't a fatigue gene, and there's no genes that we're looking at that are directly correlated with your pituitary gland, with your thyroid gland, or with your adrenal gland. So when you look at fatigue, those are the things that you're looking at. If you've ruled out more serious things like anemia, you better do a complete blood count test. That's a blood test, a CBC, a complete metabolic panel to rule out anemia, rule out liver issues, rule out some more serious things that you're dealing with. Then you want to look at looking at an adrenal profile to see your cortisol profile, do a full hormone panel, test for pituitary, test for thyroid. You should definitely doing a full thyroid panel. If you need to know what kind of panels those are, look at our autoimmune course, because that's when we go into Hashimoto's disease. A full module on the autoimmune course is Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So we go into the details of that, what a full, complete thyroid panel is. A lot of times people go, I had my thyroid tested, it was normal. When you look at their blood test, and the doctor ran a TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. That's a hormone produced by your pituitary gland that stimulates your thyroid. That is like, that is criminal. Sorry, it's just literally criminal. That is not thyroid panel. Thyroid panel, then people will go, I had a full thyroid panel. And you look at it as a TSH, T3, and T4. Okay, you need TSH, T3, T4, free T3, free T4, reverse T3, thyroid globulin antibodies, and TPO antibodies to be even in the category of a full thyroid panel. And then you need to do a complete blood count, a CBC, and a complete metabolic panel to round it out. You really need to get a full picture of where you're at. That's what kind of how you look at with fatigue. And if you have an underlying condition, you want to look at if there's if a person has cancer and they have an increase in fatigue, you're concerned about anemia of chronic disease where the cancer might be gobbling up your iron. Certainly your iron and your heme pathways can lead to fatigue, but you'll see that on a CBC. You'll see if you have low red blood count. So you're really looking for anemia with fatigue. You're looking for adrenal issues, thyroid issues with fatigue, pituitary issues with fatigue, other hormonal imbalances with fatigue. And yes, there's genetic pieces to that, but certainly, the genetic defect is not going to be the cause of fatigue. Indirectly, it's tied together, but not just a specific cause by itself. All right, thank you for joining us, and thank you for listening. And remember to submit your questions on the Read Your Genes course. Bye-bye.